Is this thing on? Welcome back to Big Mouth and fancy seeing you here, and you are very welcome, my friends, and welcome to a new part of Big Mouth superhero debate. So I'm going to show you the trailer for next week's Supergirl, and then we're going to discuss it.
You don't have to do this.
I'm doing this for us.
I know my brother's capable of it. We have to find him. The world can't live under a red sun.
The entire human race. They're going to thank me.
You don't know what you're toying with.
I want to see if the Kryptonian pretender can win.
Let's find him and stop him.
Superman. You think he's invincible.
I was the man of tomorrow, not him! Not him!
He's gonna flood the whole city.
You're going to kill millions of people.
Mr. Luther, have you anything to say before I render the verdict of this jury?
Superman made me do it.
Supergirl, all new episodes, Sunday at 8, 7 Central on the CW.
Well, there you have it. I haven't seen any Arrowverse TV show since these season's crossovers, right? Where they bastardized Superman and basically said he didn't matter because Supergirl's about. This trailer looks freaking awesome. I must admit, it looks really exciting. I will be checking it out on Netflix because I'm not in the US, so I can watch it internationally via Netflix. So this looks really good. Here's the problem. Supergirl is a terrible TV show. It's been a wasted opportunity. It really has. And I don't want to go into why. We all know why. We all know the Arrowverse hasn't been a good franchise since season 2 of Arrow and since season 2 of The Flash, when they were awesome shows, right? But then they kept on making more and more shows. They become more political, more obsessed with false ideology, rather than giving us awesome episodes of superhero shows. So this looks awesome. So obviously that they're adapting Superman Red Sun, right? Which is a brilliant story. But here's the thing. It's on Supergirl. But basically, you've heard Lex Luthor there. And by the way, I love this actor. I've always liked this actor. He was in Superman 4. He's in that sitcom. I forgot the one with Charlie Sheen. So brilliant actor and all that. Looks like a pretty good Lex as well. But here's the thing. You can see his hatred of Superman. That's great. But there's no fleshing out here. He's just there. This is just going to be one story. Maybe he'll recur again. But it's obvious what they're going to do here. After 40 minutes of this episode, he's going to land back in jail again. And they're not going to use him maybe again this season. Where has this episode come from? Nowhere. They're just hitting you with it. And basically, obviously, they're doing it to try and put the ratings up because the ratings are terrible because nobody's interested in their false ideology. But, as I say, after this episode, no one's coming back to watch this show. It's been really problematic. Now, I think Superman's been in Kandor while Lois Lane is pregnant because she can't give birth on Earth for obvious reasons. That was a way to get rid of him. And they had all this, we don't need Superman because we got Supergirl. Supergirl's my favourite Kryptonian. This was meant to mind bend us into thinking, ooh, who needs Superman? Let's all watch Supergirl. How did that work out for you, Mr. Berlanti? Not very well. So basically, looks awesome. I'll watch it. I hope I enjoy it. I hope they take a departure from what they're doing this season. It's obviously going to be about the dynamic between Lex Luthor and Superman, which is awesome. But it's on Supergirl. They're literally going to have to sideline her to do this because they refuse to give Tyler Hoechlin his own Superman show because obviously they don't want to do a Superman show. They want to focus on the films. I don't know why we can't have an awesome Superman show, awesome set of Superman films. I loved Smallville. I was so proud that we had a Superman TV show. Now, Arrowverse just doesn't work for me. It works for kids. It works for teenagers. That's great. But I'm not interested in their false ideology. So I am really looking forward to that. But with, you know, they're just throwing Lex in there and expecting us to buy it. And that's a shame. Now, I would like this if I found out this was a backdoor pilot to a Superman TV show. And who knows, if like they're not cancelling Arrow, but they're doing away with it. Basically, tomato, they're cancelling it, right? I'll be very excited if a Superman TV show was replacing Arrow. That would be awesome. And who knows, maybe this is them saying, do you want a Superman show? Yes, because Mr. Berlanti, if you give me a Superman TV show, I'll gobble up all your other mundane, mediocre TV shows. So I'm going to watch this. Ultimately, I won't carry on watching Supergirl because there's a lot of disparity towards men. There's a lot of hatred towards men. The villains are always male. It's pretty pathetic, and it's a shame. I love the cast. Melissa Benoist, who is a feminist and did have a triggered post a few months ago, which I didn't like. I won't go into that. But honestly, until Hollywood stop this, they're losing people. They can't have a regular fan base because they're not giving us great superheroes. They gave us 2 seasons of Arrow, 2 seasons of The Flash, which was so comic book, so awesome, and then they went down this false ideology agenda. And this is why I walked away from the show. So my thoughts on this, it's awesome. I'll watch it. I hope I enjoy it. But then when it's over, I ain't going to watch these shows again until they get their acts together. So, right, now let's talk about the DCEU versus the MCU. Now, basically what Kevin Feige has done here, he's literally created this cinematic universe, but he's done it on a concept of a TV show, right? So think about your favourite genre TV show, right? You've got your season premiere or your pilot. So Iron Man, the first Iron Man is your pilot. So in a TV show, right, you have a big premiere, then you have middling episodes, then when you approach mid-season, you go big, you come back a little bit big, then you go small again. This is how a TV show lasts for many, many years. And that is what the MCU does, and to great effect. So you get Infinity War, but then you get Ant-Man and the Wasp, a very middling one. Now, it's worked for them so far very, very well. So you can imagine, right, like Game of Thrones, you have Battle of the Bastards. The thing is with Game of Thrones, all their episodes are pretty epic, aren't they? So in comparison, what Walter Hamada is proposing to do with the DCEU is throw everything in every solo movie. So there won't be crossover episodes like the MCU do. Every MCU movie, even in an origin story, they get one of their characters to cross over in the origin story. So you had Tony Stark in Spider-Man Homecoming. Captain Marvel, you had Coulson. And what's his name? Nick Fury. I nearly forgot there. So everything is shared. Everything's crossed over. Everything fits together like a puzzle, right? But what Walter Hamada wants to do is say, yes, the DCEU is one universe. All these characters are part of the same universe, but we don't want heroes to be sharing films. We want to give those characters everything, focus on those characters. So it's like with Aquaman. They mentioned Steppenwolf, and that's it. That's their only kind of mentioning. That otherwise you wouldn't have a clue. It's a shared universe. Now with Shazam, there's going to be a lot of Easter eggs from the DCEU so far. Superman, Batman thrown at you everywhere. There's even rumours, and I don't know about this, of a Superman cameo. So that's very interesting if we get that. Now, if we get this kind of rumoured cameo where we just see the S-Shield and kind of a body double walking in, that means that Henry Cavill's done for. But that's not really what I want to talk about today. It's with the Joker movie, totally unrelated to the DCEU as far as we know. Birds of Prey, they'll be mentioning Batman all the time. They're saying he's gone missing, which is very interesting for the Batman movie. What does that mean for the Batman movie? But basically, we're going to get a bunch of solo movies that are interconnected in a sense that they're kind of part of the same universe. They'll name drop other characters we've seen so far, but they'll basically say, this is the Birds of Prey universe. We ain't bringing anyone else in. This is Shazam's universe. And Aquaman sums up what they want to do. I think this is quite problematic for the MCU, because if Hamada's plan works and they're throwing everything at every film and it's really epic and every film's a classic, right? And we don't know, but let's just say that's the case. Then if you're watching MCU movies that do like the big Avengers movies, but then have these middling solo movies, and let's be honest, Doctor Strange was very middling. Spider-Man Homecoming was very middling. The Thor movies are pretty middling as well. Even Thor Ragnarok, which was extremely enjoyable, but still a middle-of-the-road story where you shrug your shoulders and forget about. And it was the same with Captain Marvel. So you do that. So what happens is people say, well, we want the DCEU and the MCU to do well. They can both coexist. And of course, they can both coexist. But what happens is, and it's happened with you have DC fans going, oh, why can't we do things the way the MCU do it? And we tried that, didn't we? And it didn't work, obviously. It's like a football team, successful football team. I'm a Manchester United supporter. And I keep on saying, why can't we run our club like Liverpool run the club? Look at Jurgen Klopp. Look what he's doing. Right, they're being successful. It's working. Manchester City. But every kind of entity has a different way of doing things. And what's successful for one entity won't necessarily be successful for you. So they basically went one way, right, with BVS, MOS, Suicide Squad, right? And even Wonder Woman to a point. And then they decided with Justice League, after they'd already made Zack Snyder's film, oh, well, there's all this kind of controversy and hate for what we're doing. I know, we'll just reshoot this movie, Justice League, keeping what Zack's done, and try and make it an MCU film. And of course, the fans rejected that because it was a messy situation. So now they've learned their lesson. Now they've had their bottom spanked, basically, and they did, via the box office and reaction. They've decided that the best thing to do is just to focus on each movie. This is what they're going to do now. But also, they're going to have these DC Dark movies starting with the Joker, which I suspect will do really well. I do think this is going to be problematic for the MCU, but Kevin Feige isn't an idiot. He knows this. He must be looking at the situation now, because he's about to inherit the X-Men, Fantastic Four, right? Now, there's a great opportunity. You see, Disney will kind of have this splurt where they say, let's throw them into the MCU. This is going to be awesome. But hold your horses. I think there's an opportunity here to create an X-Men universe apart from the MCU. There's an opportunity to have a Fantastic Four universe away from X-Men and the MCU. So all of a sudden, you've got your DC Dark situation. If they just decide, I mean, the talk is they're going to do individual movies and then cross them over. I think Disney will want them crossed over with the Avengers characters. I think that's a mistake, because I think slowly, they will just carry on this thing where they'll be having these kind of middling solo movies, but ultimately, frog in my throat, but ultimately, right, if these movies are middling all the time until the crossovers, that's a big problem. I believe that anyway. I think there's a sea change, and I think DC, via Walter Hamada, is actually creating this sea change. And I think what he's doing will be successful ultimately. And MCU fans and the people who gobble up the MCU, I mean, the advantage of what Feige does is, it doesn't matter if it's a middling film. It's an MCU film. We must go and watch it. Whether it's crap, good, indifferent, mediocre, we're going to watch it. So what you do with the way Hamada wants to do it is you have to suck people in. It won't be a case of it being a DC film. But if the reputation of the DCEU and DC films in the worlds of DC becomes good, people will gobble it up. We'll go and watch every movie, no matter the quality of it. But I do feel it's a good idea what Hamada's doing to keep the post-credit scenes. The post-credit scenes are important. That was a great idea Feige come up with. I know it was accident. I know he's not the first person to come up with it. The MCU weren't the first kind of franchise to do it. I mean, the Green Lantern movie, say what you want, but they had an awesome post-credit scene. They were the first ones to do it in superheroes. People forget that. But anyway, of course they can coexist. But I do feel if Hamada throws everything at every solo movie and they're all so good, there will be questions asked of the MCU. Well, you've just given us another Spider-Man film. And there's also another problem. What happens after Avengers Endgame? The big thing with Captain Marvel was everyone went to see it because she's very important to what happens in Endgame. But what happens after Endgame? This 3-hour movie that the rumour is, that it's going to be a 3-hour movie, right? What happens after that? I mean, I'll be honest with you. I've seen the 3-hour test screening, yeah? And I'll leave it at that. But what I'm saying to you, and I don't know if they're going to cut that down. That's why I'm kind of acting blind here, because I don't know what we're going to get in theatres. So let's just say we get this 3-hour movie that I saw. It's going to be very interesting. I've got to be careful what I say here, but it's going to be very interesting how that ends. Because I don't, look, test screenings very rarely end up the way you watch them. They're a test screening. And what they're testing the audience. Basically, they're testing us to see what we like or what we don't like. And things get changed after that. But there's a situation here. Now, I liked what I saw because it was in the sense of they left it in a good place and an exciting place for the future of the MCU. If they do that, then hopefully for the franchise, it will keep people interested. But I do see this blowout effect where after people have seen Avengers Endgame and they see what happens and they see, I'm not going to talk about who's going, who's staying, but it depends how the audience respond to that. And there's another thing. There's this kind of, well, we've been waiting for this big movie. We've got this movie. What's next? Spider-Man. Another Spider-Man movie. Another middling Spider-Man movie. We've seen the trailer, right? We know what it's going to be. It's Spider-Man Far From Home. It doesn't really get the juices flowing, especially when we saw what they did with Homecoming. Homecoming isn't a terrible movie. Tom Holland is a great Spider-Man, but he's not been given the tools that Tobey Maguire was. You know, the Daily Bugle, you know, Joe Jameson, or how you say his name, right? You know, these things are being taken from Tom's Spider-Man, and it's not fair because I think you're getting Infinity, which basically means, right, we've had one epic movie, and this is the kind of the TV series frame that Feige has given it, because you get this situation where you've got this big film. It was like last year, Infinity War, then Ant-Man and the Wasp, you know. There's this anticlimax feel to it, isn't there? And I think going forward, if DC do this, where they throw everything at their films, and then the MCU fans are going, well, right, you've given me Endgame, but I just saw that Spider-Man film, and now I've got to wait till next year. I can't even remember what films are coming next year. I think it's very exciting to know that X-Men and Fantastic Four will be coming to Marvel Studios, but I think the key element is here, what do they do with this franchise now? Do they just chuck everything together? Does Feige do each X-Men so each X-Men character getting his or her own individual movie, then they slowly join the X-Men, and it's not part of the MCU, or do you get them together quickly, throw them in the MCU? It's a big decision, and I tell you what, whatever happens with that decision is a key moment in the history of the MCU. So what do you think? Did you enjoy this video, superhero debate? I enjoyed giving it to you. What do you think? What do you think about Lex Luthor being in Supergirl? Are you excited? Will you carry on watching the show? Do you care? What do you have to say? What are your thoughts about what I had to say about the MCU and the different ways the DCEU is going to be run now? Please like, share, and subscribe to the video. And tell everyone about me. Everyone must know my name.